first time, and so I'm going to quickly check and make sure that it's on and we are alive. So I feel like we got to take a big deep breath and just really settle in. For those of you who don't know, my name's Vikki Luke, and I'm a soul activator, transformational coach, and psychic mentor. And this lady is Nicolette Jane, and I will allow her to introduce herself.
I am an artist, dancer, life model, whichever part of that you resonate with.
She's a beautiful, beautiful soul. Beautiful, beautiful soul. So I wanted to welcome you guys all to episode number 3. Episode number 3 of Soul Chats. And we are live. Nicolette and I are live every Wednesday, midday Adelaide time, to talk about multiple topics, whatever we feel drawn towards. And today's topic is around awakenings. So you can comment. We are streaming to Facebook and we are streaming to YouTube. If you want to comment or ask any questions, please pop them in the comments. We will see them. Hi, Rosalie. Beautiful Rosalie is coming at us. I think you're in Canada, if I remember correctly. So today we are talking awakenings. Questions in the comments, hashtag live if you're watching us live, hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. If you don't want to talk today on live or comment, and you have a question around awakenings, then you can reach out to Nicolette or I. If there's something that we say that resonates to you, then ping us a little message. And then from there, we will reach out and support you, because awakenings, me and Nicolette connected on the call behind the scenes before we've gone live, and the energy of it today is like huge. I've just got this boulder that's coming right up my body, and it's sitting up in this space. Like the feelings that I have in my body, I actually feel lightheaded. I feel there's a lot of energy coming in that wants to be seen, wants to be heard, and wants to be experienced by people. And that, to me, in a nutshell, I'm being told, is what an awakening is. In a really, really simplistic form, it's energy that wants to be seen, heard, and felt, that is coming through you to be expressed. Now, I want to ask Nicolette, can you just tell us a little bit about your awakening? Give us a bit of insight into what happened for you, where it all began.
I wanted to mention a couple of awakenings, and I saw Bernstein. She spoke about how at our lowest, when we're at our lowest point, we have no choice but to surrender. So a lot of time awakening when they're at low emotional life, because there's it's like, okay, all right. And through that surrender allows space for new energy, is what you were talking about before. I separating from my husband 9 years ago, a time in my life where point and the way, don't have to force this anymore. We go with love and allow the relationship something else. So that's the first. and relief was a and the second one about it a bit is my first energetic alignment with and did a beautiful healing on me, and I felt sort of movement in my body that I'd never. Came home and painted. I had all of this. It was being released. So those are the two times I felt to share today. Tell us about your psychic.
I just want to interrupt quickly. Your sound is really bad, and it's really chopping and changing. So other people might be experiencing the same. I'm wondering maybe if you drop out. I'll continue. I'll tell people a bit about my awakening while you maybe disconnect and reconnect back in, Nicolette. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. So technical stuff going on here today. There's the energy is rife. So I know when we are having an awakening, a lot of the events that start to unfold can feel really, really, really fucking strange. And the energy that is flowing through us, because energy is flowing through us all the time. And back in the day when I was having my awakening, I wouldn't have seen it like this or heard it like this. So, but the energy is flowing through us and it's wanting to be expressed, seen, hear, felt, all of it. Back when I had my awakening, it was like I call it my spiritual tsunami, because over a period of 6 months, from July to December in 2018, I went from, after doing Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny event, I'm doing a lot of intensive work over 6 days in personal development and clearing and removing of layers. I went back to living my life as drinking and drugs and all of that, and it felt really wrong and uncomfortable. And so I made the decision to stop drinking alcohol because it was the catalyst to everything else. Now, through that period, very, very quickly, within a couple of weeks, here comes Nicola again, within a couple of weeks, I'd started to experience immense tingling in my hands. So much so that I was electric shock everywhere. And so that was the start of the weirdness for me, I guess, in the awakening standpoint, that I somewhere in me knew that it wasn't normal, if I say normal, but I also knew that there was nothing wrong with it. There was no physical issue with what I was feeling, but it was my new norm. And I think this is one of the thing around about awakenings, is we start to have all these experiences that come up, and in our reluctance to accept the new norm, we repel and we push them away. And so therefore we're then saying that's not who I am. And so we're then dismissing those experiences. And so then it tends to, and a lot of people I speak, I have so many people that reach out to me just wanting to talk about their awakening experiences and things that are going on, because they find them scary, because there can be a lot of fear in what happens. Now, when I was electric shocking everybody, when I went indoors and in and out of my car, I was like, this is quite weird. I think the big piece for me was later on. I too had an energy session and an energetic alignment through Stanzi Langtree, freaking phenomenal woman. That's who Nicolette and I met through. And I remember the movement in my body, and I went, holy shit. I remember sat watching someone get it done, and I thought, what on earth have I got myself into? Why am I here? What is this weirdness? Like, that's what it was. And I sat there, and then she said, who wants to go on the tables first? And I was like, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to jump straight in. And she was So I did. And the experience that I had was truly magical in the flow of the energy and the experience of the visions and what I wanted to do. I knew I had like gold that was wanting to expel from my hands and just share with the room this beautiful golden light. And all of the experiences, I think, even moving through to when I had my first spirit mediumship experience, which I spoke about on our very first soul chats, about my mom's friend entering my body. That was weird, but nothing's ever been scary. I think the fear around it was more, what are people going to think of me? If I converse this to someone, they're going to think I'm weird. That was the biggest thing for me in amongst it, and the fear that came. So if you guys are watching, just to quickly say #live if you're watching live, and pop your questions below. Interact with us. We can see you, so we can see all your comments. So comment your questions or any thoughts or experiences you've had, and you want to share awakenings wise. I believe awakenings are very magical experiences, but the repulsion from it, because of the lack of support that we have around it, makes us push a lot of it away. What's your thoughts on that, Nicolette?
About fear of talking about it, fear of journey. It made me think about awakening or awareness, feel in my body, what is going on in my body. So a lot of the courses that I've done on Reiki and other, and just practice with people and practicing in an energetic way, I realized that if they have a lower, I'm going to feel, it's not pain, but it's an awareness. I've got the throat chakra is blocked in my throat, and things, or when I'm meditations online, I found to talk about these things, experiencing, and I was thought awaken me, and so I created a Facebook group with and it had people in it for ages, because then to people who understanding and an open, and these days is what I say, and what people take from it, and build to that point. And I've had them where have gone and hibernated, been able to come back and speak.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. When I had a lady reach out to me once, and she was having experiences around knowing what was going to happen with someone who just walked past her, and she's just going about her day. And see you later, Rosalie. See you on the replay. She would be sat at the bus stop, for example, and there would be a man walk past, and she would immediately get a flash of something that was going to happen for that person. Now, she found that really fearful because she could see an accident that would occur, for example, or, and one of the challenges that she had was the environment that she lived in. The circle of people that were there with her weren't necessarily supportive of this, right? So in that experience, and plus she was like, I don't want to predict something bad that's going to happen to someone. Is that me making that happen? But it was merely enhanced experience to allow her to see what her capabilities were really there. And part of her challenge was she kept on going, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this, and didn't understand the management of it and how actually, rather than panicking, there is a way that you can control and play with that energy and be at one with it rather than allow it to consume all of you in a good way or a bad way, I guess, because there are multiple kind of, you see some people will have awakenings and they're off floating up in the stars, and and they're really anchored into something which is really, really beautiful, but then they're very disconnected from this life and who they are in this life. So it's two-way street.
It's real to have those consciousness experiences, and it's important to recognize that we are all one, are all connected, and to have, but unless we actually take the time in this body, we're not living to live a.
Yeah, I hear you. It's about us being able to find the balance, and it's about us in terms of the expression of the truth that wants to be seen. I mean, there is no harm in being. I remember a long, long time ago, right in the beginning, probably in my awakening journey, after I'd had my first energetic alignment with Stanzi, there was a guy who said to me, Vikki, you're really in a good place, but I think you're just a bit far away from everybody in here. And it was interesting because at the time I felt I was so connected here and up here, and was so in tune with everything that had to be. But in looking back, I can see how that could make him feel uncomfortable because I was in such alignment with everything that was going on with me, and he was merely coming from his place of where he was at that time.
The distance that come, you're in full understanding, but other people aren't. So when you're stuck on a journey, spirit, remember that there's people who love you that aren't going through that you're going through. So yeah, just and where they're at.
Yeah. I'm being guided that there's something specific that is coming through that you would like to touch on, Nicolette. I don't know what it is, but I believe that there's something that you would like to express around awakeness. We've all had very different things happen, and I agree with you what you said earlier on. It's like a reigniting of different things that will happen as you move forward, and from the darkness actually and the shadows, that's where things start to rumble, I think, really, to begin with.
Yeah, and there's a lot of judgment that will throw at each other, the type of language that the belief systems, people who are very Christian can have awakenings, so that's their language, and they resonate with the words that I use for myself, and with the light, my connection with, and sometimes I'll use the words the source of energy that we're connected to, right? So any time on right for you and worrying about judgment people will think. The purpose of an awakening, I come into alignment with and what our soul is calling us to bring forward in this life. So it's it comes about, and there's certainly no judgment from me, and I'm sure how journey is happening for you. So I feel that my life is to stand up and be heard, be inclusive of everyone, their experience, and that throwing stuff at you like you're going to go to hell. To navigate the judgment just on this spirit or on this life's journey, trying to become the best that we can be in this human.
I agree. It's really interesting when and you lead me on to want to talk about a bit about as my awakening moved forward and I started to feed into stuff. So many of you will have heard the story, and I mentioned it earlier about spirit entering my body, and I had this. I mean, it was a phenomenal, like powerful moment for me, because I did look in the mirror and think, could be sent to an asylum here, right? If I tell anybody about this. And then I had multiple spirits coming to talk to me. And then my ego said, this is it. This is what you're needing to do. You're here to clear spirits. So as an ego and as a human, I was looking for validation as to the experiences that I was having on a spiritual awakening level, and I was looking for that. And then I started to work with my a psychic mentor, and through that, and it's interesting because the journey of the awakening, that through that forced me, because it was so powerful. I was like, I've got to work with someone who understands this. So I went and worked with this mentor, and then through that I started to do healings and readings for my friends and things, right? And then I quite quickly was like, I don't want to do a reading, just a reading. That's not what I want. I want to help people longer term. So it sent me on this journey and on this path to be where I am today, doing what I do today. And every piece of it was awakening, because to even sit, and after everything that happened last year, and we touched on that, we've both had quite full on years last year, it was like I had to reawaken myself at points by going into the darkness to remind myself how good I am, right? And how amazing I am. And I don't say that from an ego place. I say that from, I truly am a beautiful person. Like, I know I am. And it's funny, last year I ran my first retreat, 5-day retreat. And the magic that happened at that retreat, like, surpassed, I didn't have expectation, but it surpassed any that I ever could have had. Like, the shifts that people saw from coming, it was awakening in itself, because we're always being called to move forward. I think as we have these experiences in whatever form they make, how big or small, some of the smaller ones could be even more scary than some of the bigger ones for some people, right? So there's as you said, there's no judgment in any of this. But every step of the way, you're awakening more and more and more and more. And what I didn't realize is, before my spiritual tsunami awakening, I was already awakening. I'd awakened my soul to learn just different ways to live in this life through personal development and growth. And so we can compartmentalize an awakening, but really, my heart wants to say it's constantly.
To me as well is that it's not about of awakening. It's about yourself every moment. And yes, you'll have big, but the cumulative effect of little awakening is just as impactful.
Yeah. Like, I completely It's funny, if you told me that this is where this conversation would go when I was Fourth Awakenings, I would never have written it like this, like at all. But now, as we're conversing, we're going on the journey, because we are from the moment the seed of our soul is placed into this life, in wherever that starts, in the creation of the heart of the baby, before the baby's even created with sperm and egg. This is kind of what I want to say. Your spirit's awakening because parts are coming together to lead you through your journey. And this physical form is merely the channel, and we touched on this before, is merely the channel for this information, for this, for all of you logic people out there, the data to flow through. So like it's, and your data might come in many forms, but we are being encouraged, and I believe the awakening that's going on a global scale is people are really being encouraged. Sorry, there's a big mosquito just come right in front of my face.
Yes. So
the world is really being encouraged to see, hear, feel, and know the truth. And that's why people are being given experiences of that are quite full on at times, because the world, the energy of divine, like everybody's being called to see that there is more than the ego, and that the journey, every step of our journey is awakening. It's enlightening, and it leads us on our evolution of change of who we are. And when we are not allowing ourselves to awaken because we are morbid and depressed and sat in the dark, and
we are in of what we know, the structure that we've been taught. Sorry, I cut you off there. Came through.
It's okay, go for it.
We was in the structure, and our up against it, wanting that energy to move and wanting to become really uncomfortable. The awful low and bad emotions, and the discomfort is like the discomfort is about reaching that point of surrender. Yes. There's got to be that point, and it is like actually stepping past.
Yeah, I just had it's interesting, I had a session with a client earlier today, and we were talking about the shifts in our energy, and I was telling her about experience when I was in my old job, when I started to have my awakening, right? And I was in a workplace for 3.5 years, and when I started there, I was part of this sales team, one of the boys, like drinker, and I would go, and then gradually my world shifted. And this is, I literally had my spiritual tsunami over 6 months, and all of a sudden I freaking had spirit coming, and now I'm still going, and I'm being this person at work who it didn't resonate energetically. I was on a different frequency. It didn't make me better or worse than, it just meant that I didn't resonate, and so we're then being pushed forward or driven forward to make a choice differently, right? Because our awareness is different, because our experiences are different. And it was really interesting, because at that point in my more limited understanding, I guess, I went into shutdown mode when I was in that environment, to really protect myself and really push away what didn't resonate with me. It actually caused me lots of pain. The team that I was part of then started, they bitched behind my back, and loads of, and it made me feel really miserable, even worse. Little did I know, because of me pushing away, because it was like my awakening world was sacred. Like it was just like this, felt so good in there. I hadn't realized, so I purposefully on subconsciously was creating this divide, which energetically everybody felt, but nobody said. And then it caused it, because of that, I was creating disconnect, and I was creating the toxicity. Now, by no stretch am I responsible for the way people said or did things, but I know the journey that I was on. I was being called to shift and evolve, and it then means that we have to make some seemingly very tough decisions, and we either as we move forward and we embrace this truth of this energy flow that's awakening within us constantly, there's part of it that says, I've got to let go. But because of our fear, we hold on so tightly to what was, because it's the known that we were in at the time. And these awakenings are a bit freaky at times. So like we hold on more, and it actually just becomes more and more and more and more painful. So when you're talking about going into that place of darkness and that surrender, it's like we're driving ourselves into it because we're holding on so tightly to what was once familiar. But we're being called to let that go and release, to move forward and embrace more. Does that make sense? I feel like that's kind of come out all like this, but there's essences within it that people have to hear and take on board.
I remember when we came back from the retreat. I remember when I walked through home and I felt like an alien because I'd just spent this week people who were the intensive internal work and going places had never been before, and then coming back to our family. So it was so confronting, and my younger brother said, you know, at that time, Nick, who you were anymore. That was really scary. My close. And I didn't speak about it much. You know, I'll say that's saying I'll just talk to the people who I went with, and a bit of a distance from people I already had in my life who on this journey with me. I speak a lot more what's going on for me with my, because I know now that I do or say or be, I'm still me set, and my connection is still as solid as it was. It's just I'm on a bit of it takes time to be in that.
Yeah, it's like it has to become familiar. And there is no harm in keeping something sacred for you while you become familiar with it. But I do really recommend that while you're on this path, that you surround yourself again, and we bring this up every time, with the people who understand or will be able to resonate with you. There's an immense number of groups out there that you can meet up with, or even online that you can associate with. So I've got my Super Souls Facebook group and so on and so forth. So, but connect with people. Don't sit alone, scared. That's the one thing I would say to anybody in any of this process. Reach out. I mean, we talked about going with coaches or learning last week, and in this, and I said at the beginning, if you're having an experience and you need to talk about it, then, and you don't want to do it on here, you don't want to write a comment, then reach out separately, privately, and do it. That's so okay too. I think, one of my, just to touch on, because this is one that we were both part of, one of my awakening experiences, and I feel really called to say it, was Nicolette and I met on a retreat in Australia. And then we went on a second retreat in Fiji in 2019. And in Fiji, I had the experience of Nicolette. We'd been having energetic alignments done, and then Nicolette was sat on the wall, and we were supporting everybody else doing what they were doing. And I just walked over her. Something told me, walk over and sit beside Nicolette. So I walked over and I sat beside Nicolette. And bearing in mind, I had my awakening in 2018, and the first spirit came to me on like the 14th of December. This was like March, wasn't it? 2019. Yeah. So it's all still pretty fresh. And I'm not, and although I know, and I've done work with my mentor, I knew it was the embodiment of, and I had this experience where I just went and sat down and took Nicolette's hand. And I just held her hand. And we sat there for ages while everybody else was doing their thing. And we didn't talk because we were just holding space for the group. But little did I know that at that time, while Nicolette was holding my hand, it was your granddad, wasn't it? Her granddad was channeling through me and giving Nicolette the ability to have a conversation with him just through holding my hand. And I remember everybody kind of got up and were moving, and Nicolette went, "You'll never guess what's just happened." And I went, "I didn't know that was happening." She's like, "How did you not know?" I was like, "I didn't know." And then all of a sudden, I started to channel a bit more from her granddad, and there was other things, and even champion. It all starts to come back. Like it's like it all comes back. And we had this beautiful, beautiful experience. I'd never experienced. Do you know what? Never since then has that ever happened to anybody else that I've been with in that space. But I got to experience that with a truly beautiful soul that also got to experience that too, exactly the right time. And for me, it was like there was a part of my ego that went, "Oh my God, am I just meant to hold people's hands and then they like can speak to people?" And I was like, no. All it was to accept the beauty of the experience that was in that moment, and the gift that I had been able to give you unknowingly, completely unknowingly, just merely by following the guidance and the signs that said, go and sit next to Nicolette and hold her hand. So that's what I did. And if I hadn't have done that, we would have never had that experience. And so I guess the one really key thing that I want to say before we wrap up our call today is you're going to experience some nudges. You're going to experience things telling you to do something. You may have a checklist of tools that work for you to get you grounded or aligned, or in whatever format that is. You may have a breath work or a meditation or all of these things. But one day you might get guidance that it's something else you've got to do, and it feels very freaking random. You've never done it before. And just because you have this pot of tools, it doesn't make them invalid, but it just makes you will end up getting more frustrated at yourself if you checklist what should be working for you tools wise. And when it doesn't, you're like, but I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. But it's not what you're meant to do in that moment to support you. So
what you meant to do and what feels.
Yeah. We are constantly being guided. Like, I'm a psychic medium and I am not special. We all have the ability. All of us do. It just depends on whether you're willing to let go and release all that does not serve you anymore, all the blocks that you're creating on the fly, subconsciously, every day. You're just recreating them, and you validate them via past experience. And then boom, we have this new awakening experience. It's like out of nowhere and freaking contradicts everything that we've ever had. And we've just got to nurture ourselves through every step with compassion and kindness and love. And when you get fearful in any of this, lean on to the people that matter, and lean on the people that will not question or judge you. But most of all, be kind and compassionate to yourself. You don't have to be scared by it. I promise you that you don't have to be scared by it. You merely reach out to the people that feel good to you to help you understand it. Have you got anything that you want to say finally before we wrap up today's session?
That people need intention, and the action is really, really super powerful. You have complete control what is happening in your field. All you have to do is set the intention. So the intention to connect to my higher self. I feel when we get the self-talk or the judgment to come in, we can set the intention myself with light and act with grace, and not letting those energies in. And as soon as we say those energies in, they just drop.
Yeah.
They have no power.
I just had a vision of a towel, like someone, like an old man with a towel, where they've like taken their bathers off at the beach and got a towel around. When you said they just drop, I just saw this towel drop to the floor.
That's a great vision.
I tell you what, there's lots of fun and humor in my channel, and there's also lots of swearing. My partner talked about, you do swear a lot. I don't know whether that's the right, good for you, and I'm like, well, it's just the way things go on a day. If that's what has to be said or seen or feel to create more strength or impact, then that's what flows through me. And like Nicolette's absolutely right. Your intention is for everything. If you're having a chaotic brain day where it's scrambling for everything, 9 times all it's doing is attempting to keep you safe in some sort of chaos that you're living in, rather than to allow you the freedom that you truly desire. And so to set your intention of what that you really desire, that peace, that calm, whatever it is, just allow yourself to follow those nudges. I had my client call earlier, not mentioning names. She'd been at work, lots of chaos, and she'd been ignoring the signals, really high ringing in her ear, ignoring, and then she just picked a leaf. She went, oh, God, that feels good. So she just carried the leaf. She put it in her pocket. Nobody was any the wiser, and her entire energy shifted, because it was an immediate contact with nature that was the requirement in that point. But been ticking everything else on the list. This has got to work. This has got to work. This has got to work. But it wasn't, because in that moment, the nudge was to be in nature, connected to nature, the oneness of it all. So you're going to see, hear, feel so many things. So many things are going to come to you. And there's going to be knowings. And if I give you one tip around that, is just feel into the knowing. Do I know that this is okay? Yes, I actually do. It's freaking crazy. I've got little men running across my bed and blah, 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 blah. But actually, I know it's all okay. It's all okay. So lean into that knowing that you have within you. If anybody is interested, I have launched a psychic school, and we've got a foundation level 1 and level 2 advanced. The level 1 for me encompasses everything that I learned on my journey and more that I have channeled, and is the fundamental foundation for anybody working in energy. You don't need to protect yourself, guys. You're constantly protected if you work in the correct way. So if it's around your beliefs. So I'm actually running an in-person workshop in Adelaide for the first time, and I have 50% off for the launch of Psychic School Level 1. But I am doing an in-person weekend, an online weekend workshop in May as well. So if you want more details, then please reach out, and I'm happy to just tell you more about it. So, but it will give you everything that you need to know to feel more comfortable and more certain and confident in yourself every day, just as you're going around day to day, and when shit happens. So, yeah.
Yeah. A chakra clearing coming date for it yet, but it'll be sometime, I would say.
Amazing.
So yeah, just a couple of days ago, chakra clearings all the time, and I haven't done one for a while to step back into that space. So if, like, you have a lot of stagnant energy and you need a bit of that in your energy field.
Mm-hmm.
Really seeing the details of that soon.
Awesome. Well, we can share them here, and when you've got it all noted, then we can put a link, or people can reach out if they're interested in that too. So yes, please reach out. Any questions, any thoughts, any feedback, anything you want us to talk about. We are here again next Wednesday, midday Adelaide time, 30 minutes ahead of Brisbane and 30 minutes behind Sydney and Melbourne. So there you go. But we will be back next week. I am not sure of our topic just yet, but thank you so much for joining us. Please give us some love when you're watching the replay, #replay at the end, and we will be back next week. My beauties, we will see you all very soon. Mwah. Thank you again, Nicolette. Bye. Bye.